Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith. And today I'm talking about I Believe in Mr. Bones by Max Booth III and published by Apocalypse Party. In I Believe in Mr. Bones, we have a gentleman named Daniel Adams. Daniel Adams and his wife live in Texas, and they have a small press publishing company, publishes horror books. They are considering opening up a bookstore, and as at the beginning of this book, they're just a few weeks away from their first Fiendish book festival. Their publishing company is Fiendish Books. And Daniel, while they're vending at somebody else's event, Daniel receives an email that says, the email subject line reads, "Do you believe in Mr. Bones?" And there's a story, like a novella length story, in the body of the email. Not even an attachment, just the entire email is this story. And at first, he just throws it to his trash and moves on with his life, but curiosity and boredom cause him to dig it out of the trash, the email trash, and read it. And he becomes obsessed with it. And crazy things happen. And that's what I'm going to tell you. That's the nutshell. So for the too long didn't watch folks, I gave this 4 out of 5. I really, really liked it. It's probably a 4.5 out of 5. Max Booth III is a fantastic author, and everything I've read by him so far has been very different from the preceding things that I've read by him. So I'm not sure that I would necessarily recognize his style, because I think each book I've read has been in sort of a different style. There are authors you recognize their writing. You could start reading a book not knowing who wrote it, and depending, within a page or so, maybe a little longer, you're like, oh, I'm pretty sure this is by so-and-so. This is a Stephen King book. This is a Jeff Strand book. I don't think I could do that with Max Booth III. And so this book, the style is hard to describe. It's, I want to say, lighthearted until it's not. First of all, and this is illustrated by Betty Rocksteady. She didn't do the cover, but she did do a bunch of interior illustrations, and I can't really show you any because they're spoilery. The only thing I can do is show you the logo for Fiendish Books, which is right there. And then technically, there's one other that isn't really spoilery that I could possibly show you. I don't think this is spoilery, but there's another of her illustrations. The rest are definitely spoilery, so I won't show you anymore. But anyway, in the author note in the about the author, it says, in the middle of the about the author, "It is at this point in the bio that the author feels it is necessary to once again remind the reader that the novel they just read was fictional, and any real-life resemblances within the text are purely coincidental. Seriously, let's not get weird about this." So, with that being said, Max Booth III and his partner, Lori Michelle, who got married at Ghoulish Book Festival, they run Ghoulish Books. They have, for 3 years now, had the Ghoulish Book Festival. They opened Ghoulish Books, a small horror bookstore in San Antonio, Texas. And In this book, Daniel Adams and his wife run Fiendish Books in San Antonio, Texas. They are having their first annual Fiendish Books Festival. They are considering opening a bookstore, Fiendish Books, focused on horror. So, yeah, there's a few parallels to real life. There are real authors mentioned in here. There are some meta moments, which I won't spoil. There's some very meta moments. And so I did find myself at times trying to recognize some of these fictional characters and place them with potentially real world counterparts. Not successful, but it was there. Because I follow Max Booth III on social media. I've interviewed him a number of times, and because most of my social media is following or being friends with people in the horror community. There are things I definitely recognized, things that made me think they were potentially reflections of real people. But my big question was some of the interactions between, Daniel Adams and fans or people. As I said, we open with Daniel and his wife vending at an event at a mall. And, people come up to their table, look at the books, look at the things they have for sale. And I've heard plenty of anecdotes from different authors at vending events and the interactions that they have with people. I've seen the interactions. I've been some of those interactions. So I just had to wonder how much of at least the interactions themselves are autobiographical. All of that aside, all of this introductory stuff with where we meet Daniel Adams and we meet his wife, and you really will get some insight into the workings of a very small press like Ghoulish Books. But it has a sort of a lightheartedness to it. It's a lot of what goes on is very funny, and some of it's sort of tragically funny in the way things happen with things. But then, once Daniel has opened up that email and read this thing with a subject line, "Do you believe in Mr. Bones?" There's no actual title. There's no page count. There's no author name. All he has is the email address that it was sent from. But from that moment, there are just points where all of a sudden it gets dark and shocking. And then it'll slowly go back to the way it was. Except we're seeing the breakdown of an individual. We don't know if it's in his head, if it's real, if it is real, what the hell's going on. And then there's stuff I can't even get into. Things get crazy, things get wild, and I really, really liked it. As I said, Max Booth, fantastic writer. The characters in here, whether or not based on real people, are interesting characters. Daniel Adams and his wife, flawed characters. They're real people. There's I don't know about the pronunciation, Ziomara is a wonderful character. There's some sort of asshole characters that are enjoyable to read about. And then again, there's the sudden bouts of insanity that happen that are shocking. It's ice water in the face. And it all works so well. It doesn't get bogged down. It unfolds at a great pace. And I really, really enjoyed this. And the book might be cursed. This book, not the book in the book, but this actual book might be cursed because a few people, including myself, have reached out on social media to Max Booth III to share some things that have happened. A couple people say they have had nightmares about Mr. Bones. I believe someone broke a bone after they started reading this book. And after the first evening of reading this book, I started it, read it until it was time to go to bed. Not that far in, but read it, went to bed, woke up in the morning, had a terrible bout of vertigo. I could not stand up. I sat up in bed, and the entire room was spinning. I had to lay back down. The room kept spinning. It finally settled. Stayed there for a while. Sat back up, tried to stand up. Room was spinning. Took me a long ass time just to get out of bed. I blame Mr. Bones. So it's possible, I dare you to read this book. It just might be cursed. Not sure what else to say about this. Just fantastic writing, interesting characters, some very, very funny stuff, some very, very horrific stuff, but it all blends together well. The meta moments work, and the thing is, if you're not familiar with Max Booth III or Ghoulish Books or any of the real people that are mentioned in here or any of the people that are possibly alluded to in here, if you don't know any of that, it doesn't matter. You can go into this never having read a book before in your life, and you're not going to be lost. You're not going to be wondering, who's this? What's that? Am I supposed to know this? It's not that kind of story. You can go in completely blind and enjoy it from start to finish. But if you are someone like me, it's just that extra layer of enjoyment. It's not even the frosting on the cake. It's just the little sprinkles on the frosting. Those little sugary sprinkles that are shaped like bones. So 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really recommend it. I Believe in Mr. Bones by Max Booth III from Apocalypse Party. I'll have links for it as usual. I'll have links to pick it up in the description below. I ordered it from Max Booth, so it's signed, and he has a little skeleton stamp that he had. He stamped it with and then signed it, and told me that apparently I didn't know this. This was news to me. Where the heck is the signature? It says bones are fake. What the hell's that about, Max Booth III? So I will have the link to get it directly from Max Booth through Ghoulish Books, even though it's published by Apocalypse Party. But it might take a little longer to get it. You're going to have to pay shipping, but I believe in, when you can, order directly from the publisher so that they get, more money. You don't have Amazon or whomever taking their cut. But I will have the Amazon link. But I always suggest, if you can, go directly with the publisher. Or the author in this case. So that's it. I don't have a question for this video. Suggestions? Well, anything by Max Booth III. As I said, I think that his writing style is different. Touch the Night, which is the first thing that I read by him, I think. Can't remember if I read that first or if I read We Need to Do Something. Either way, Touch the Night, very, very dark from start to finish. I don't think there's anything funny in it. Maybe characters making dark humor jokes, but it is very dark from start to finish. We Need to Do Something, which is made into a movie, is a slow build with interesting characters and things get crazy. But again, it doesn't have the sort of lightheartedness that I feel in this. And then the other thing I've read by him was The Last Haunt, I believe it's what it's called. And that's completely different because it's in the form of interviews. It's essentially someone's making a documentary about a Halloween haunt, and what we're reading is the interviews they did with different people. And then he's got other stuff that I haven't even read yet. The Nightly Disease. Is it Carnal Lunar Activity? His werewolf book that's out of print, unfortunately, but he was nice enough to send me a copy. Maggots Screaming, and some other stuff that I've got his short story collection, and some other stuff. Haven't read it all, but what I've read is fantastic, and it's also, each one is so different from the other that's my recommendation. Read Max Booth III. All right, so there you have it. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. I realize I didn't even tell you what Mr. Bones is about, like the story within the story, but I don't think I need to. I don't think I want to spoil anything. So, let us continue. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, I will have links for my Instagram and Bluesky in the description below. And that's all I've got. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith. And until next time, read more books.